Hello, everyone. This is Mark Porteous with the Inspired Messengers Network and the Soul Affiliate Alliance, and I'm here today with Andrea Isaacs, an emotional mastery expert for going over how many years is it? Over 20 years. And we're going to be talking today a little bit about your vision for 2020. You're going to be visiting us in Orlando for Vision 2020 Leadership, Soulful Leadership Mastermind Retreat. And we're going to be talking about playing a bigger game. I know that a lot of the leaders there are already very much in alignment with their soul, which is a big piece of what we're talking about, and really looking for what is the next step in their life. So I'm curious to hear from you. We've been working together now for over 5 years. You've been supporting my work. I've been in your work. And it's just really, really exciting to be on this path. And at this time in human history and in our journeys, it just feels like there's so much going on. I'm really excited to hear what is emerging for you.
I love that you are focused on playing a bigger game because, I think that these challenging times, and when I read the news and hear the news, it seems to get more and more challenging all the time. So in these times, more than ever, every one of us needs to be playing a bigger game. And what I have discovered personally and with clients and students and just in people everywhere, every time we want to play a bigger game, we are hitting up against the edge of our comfort zone. No matter how big you are, there is a next step, which means you haven't done it yet. And in that next step, all kinds of things can arise. It's kind of like a fear, but it may not show up like I'm scared. It could show up like procrastination. I just can't get to it. Distractions, resistance. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can do it. Fear of success, fear of failure. All kinds of things arise. So the work that I love to do to help people shift that is to actually create that inner way of being first, so that they already embody that next bigger, bolder version of themselves, and they can play a bigger game.
Beautifully, beautifully said. And when you were sharing that, it reminded me that that was one of the awarenesses I got working with you. The idea that as I stepped into my comfort zone, stepped out of my comfort zone, and it was in that expansion mode that's very, very uncomfortable. After a while, you get comfortable with that new expansion, and then you're like, oh, I have to do this again. There's never oh, I'm just expanded now. And then
I'm done.
Yeah, it's never done. And it's just an ongoing process. At first that seemed like, oh my gosh, there's never going to be a just done part. And then I realized, oh yeah, there's never a just done part, and how wonderful that is, being able to kind of embody that.
There's never just a done part. You're so right. And we did a process with you recently, as you remember, because you are stepping into your next bigger, bolder version, and you are expanding. And it's wonderful to witness that and to have been a part of that, because you need to be this next bigger version of you. We did a process where you embodied it. You created that neural pathway for it. And I believe it's supporting you in expanding into this next bigger step.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you remember all the details of it, but I came to you with a half of the mantra around I am a supernova of love, and that was very expansive and moving into the universe. And you really wanted to help me to ground that down as well, which has been very, very helpful. With I am a powerful force in the universe.
Yeah, and I wanted to find a couple of terms for our listeners here. A mantra is a word or phrase, and probably most of our listeners know that. Om is a very common mantra. And a mantra can be any word or phrase that captures what you want to feel or be or embody. It's an inner state that you can actually anchor. And we anchor it with these words and also with a mudra. Traditionally, that's a prayer or meditation position. And the process that you and I did was to have you embody that being the powerful supernova. And as you felt it in your body, you created the neural pathway, which does change the brain, and then motivates the part of the brain that motivates you to take that action that will make it so.
I'm glad that you created that distinction, because I do remember the idea of saying that I am a supernova of love. It sounded grandiose and beautiful and poetic, and
Beautiful.
not quite me yet. I wasn't. I was like, oh yeah, that's a nice thing to look at, but to actually feel what that feels like. It does. It's really helped me to be comfortable seeing myself as bigger than what I used to see myself as.
Yeah. And an interesting thing about growth and being that bigger supernova is the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. You know, when we remember a scenario, we can feel it as if it's happening right now. Or if we, imagine into a future event, we can feel it as if it's true. So what happens when we say these phrases, the powerful mantras, especially when they're anchored in the body and you have that neural pathway, is the brain will, you might think, well, it's not quite me yet. It's what I want. It's what I long for. What you do is you are motivating the part of the brain that doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know you're not that yet. And that's why it motivates you to take that action, that specific focused action that makes it so. And I love how the brain, we can actually work with our brains to help and support us in being who we want to be.
And we talk about the power of the mind. To me, I see that as the bridge between the soul and the body, that we are human beings, we are spiritual beings, having this human experience, and that the mind is kind of the space between that. If we just wanted to be spiritual beings, we wouldn't have incarnated. And if we were just bodies here, without any meaning or purpose, it wouldn't have the inspiration that we have. It wouldn't light us up. And the idea of the mind being able to do that and how you connect those two. Tell us a little bit more about that with like the mudra part.
Well, I want to address something else you just said. Sure. About being spiritual beings having a human experience. One of the differences between a spiritual being and a human being is we are walking on planet Earth, or we're rolling, or we are on planet Earth. And whether some people actually aren't, if you're challenged in some ways, you may not be that mobile. However, as a human being, you live on planet Earth. We all need that grounded Earth energy to feel it underneath us. And Mark, my work is based on the Enneagram. It's a personality system. Ennea means 9 in Greek, and it describes these 9 different patterns of thinking, feeling, and responding. That's a short description. But one of these types has a very strong ability to access that grounded Earth energy, which is natural, easy self-confidence. And as human beings walking on planet Earth, or being on planet Earth, living here, we have to embody that. If you're here to make a difference, if you're here to stand up for who you are, if you want to be that person you want to be, if you want to be that next bigger, bolder version of you, we have to connect to planet Earth. How do we do that? By inviting that Earth energy up through the soles of our feet, up through our legs, into our belly center. And to feel that grounded, easy, natural self-confidence. You don't have to try to be confident. You just are. It's just there. And when we're in our confidence, it's easier to stand up for who we are and to make that difference.
I love that you shared that. As you were saying that, you said the word ease several times. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was another conversation we had about the door of ease, that a few years ago, that's what I was expanding into. I didn't want it to be so hard, and it was so hard. And so I really was able to embody that, and it just seemed like everything became so much easier. And then I said, okay, great, now it's easy. Now I want to expand. And you mentioned the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a really, really interesting tool that you first introduced to me. And then recently I've learned a lot more around the magic of the number 9, of just all of the sacred geometry that comes within all of those numbers. But I really find it very fascinating to any kind of tool that helps us to discover more of who we are. Yeah. It's like a mirror. So anything that we can do to discover more and more of who we are helps us to become more of that. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the Enneagram, and what you've created is totally unique. Many people may have taken the test before, but maybe they didn't take the EQ quiz.
Well, it is a unique perspective. It's a very holistic expression of the Enneagram, and this is why. Yes, we all do have a core type. It really beautifully illustrates our inherent gifts and also the challenges that we have and the way we struggle in the world and with our lives, with personalities, with relationships, with challenge, and so on. And it's useful to know our core type. But in my emotional mastery blueprint, which illustrates the results of your quiz, we can see at a glance, no, you're not just a type. Yes, you have a core type, and you have these gifts and challenges, different amounts of each of them in all areas of the Enneagram. And it's useful to get that whole picture, because when you have the whole picture, you have like these connections, like, oh, I see you're really self-critical. Oh, no wonder you're not very happy. Or no wonder you don't believe in yourself. No wonder you can't get stuff done, because your voice is diminishing your value in your mind. Or you get angry really quickly. No wonder you don't believe peace is possible. Or, there's a connect. These comments I'm making are all based on different types. The point is all of the scores are useful to see the whole picture of you. It's like an MRI of your personality, and it guides us in the work that we can do together so that you don't have these challenges. These challenges, which could be any low challenge in any of the personality types, and they're all valuable. There's no hierarchy. Oh, you really want more of this and less of that. The gift of each of them, each of those gifts is hugely valuable. None of us want the challenges of any of the types. So I started calling some of these things whammies when you have a low gift or a high challenge. And then these scores impact each other to impact you to either make the same kind of stress and struggle over and over again, or to really empower you and to know really where your gifts are. Sometimes I'll reflect to a client or to someone who's, I have these emotional mastery breakthrough sessions, which people are invited to after they take the quiz. And these sessions, I point out, oh, you are so gifted in this area, and I'll describe it. And they'll go, well, yeah, I do that, but I didn't know that was a gift. How often I hear people say that. So it's pointed out where you can shine. And sometimes it helps people narrow their focus when they realize, oh yeah, this is my gift. I want more of this in my life. And that does give you more ease in life and everything.
Absolutely. And I really love that. I think that's very true in most cases. The things that are our greatest gifts, we're the most blind to because it's what we do all the time so naturally. So to be able to have this visual, it's actually shaped like a pie, and you got the green cones and the red cones. And you can actually see, because I've taken this several times, where when I'm working on being conscious of these certain areas, that the red zones get smaller and the green zones get bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it means change is possible, and that's one of my key messages. I want people to know that change can be easy. People think, well, that's just me. That's the way I am. I'm wired that way, and I know a lot of people hold that to be a truth. And it's only a truth if you don't know how to make change be easy. And it's by creating these neural pathways for that next way of being that really allows you to step over the edge of your comfort zone and make change happen.
I love that. So speaking of change, again, you are one of the experts in the world of Enneagrams and emotional mastery. And you've been doing this work with your clients for a very long time. And it sounds like now
6 years now.
26 years. You're on the board of, what is the national board?
I was for 6 years on the board of the International Enneagram Association.
And again, what you've done is really brought together, that's just one of the tools. You bring in all of your lifelong experience in helping leaders to really step more into who they are and to being more in alignment, which is one of my key pieces. Tell us a little bit how you're stepping into your bigger game this year, because I don't know if you've even shared this publicly, but is that okay if we talk a little bit about
Sure. So I did, past tense, spend decades being painfully shy. And I remember many years ago, I asked a group of entrepreneurs, it was probably a group of 350-ish people. I said, raise your hand if you are or ever identified with being shy. I will tell you, maybe 95% of the people in that audience raised their hands. I had no idea that this room full of entrepreneurs had dealt with this shy thing. And one of the outcomes of being shy is people who are shy don't stand in their value, because you will be seen more. And people might be like, what, she's a fraud, she can't do that. Or your inner voice is telling you, oh, I can't do that. You're always holding yourself back. So as a recovering shy person, one of my challenges is being seen in a bigger way. And sure, as my work has grown, I've stepped into that, and I have had my resistance at each time I cross the comfort zone. So my next step really is being seen yet in an even bigger way. So of course it alerts that old shy part of me, and I've had some of my resistance. And my challenge is, it's not just standing in my value in a bigger way, but as I see this bigger picture, it makes that feel easier. So for instance, in a way I see the work all of these people coming together at your event, Mark, are in these different pillars, let's call it. They're people who do like building a school or networking or emotional mastery or mind movies, or, we each have our own pillar, so to speak. And we have our little sometimes huge, we all have our followings. And what I'm seeing is that each pillar, as it grows and grows and grows, these people are connected to people in this pillar over here, and that grows, and the pillars start to grow and blossom like a garden. First, the seeds are spread out 12 inches. Why? They're so far apart. Well, because as those plants grow, they get bigger and they start to overlap. So the vision that I'm seeing is these pillars expanding like flowers and trees and all connecting. And as that happens, we'll be sharing our resources even more. And then those pillars start to grow. We have more pillars, and then pretty soon the whole world can have these tools, and we will all be able to make that impact that we're here to make.
That is just so beautiful, and so much why I'm excited to see you again. It's been a couple of years since we've seen each other in person, even though we see each other regularly through the network. But it's just so deeply in line with the whole purpose of the Vision 2020 event is about sharing resources and looking at what is the leading edge, how are we innovating the way that we share our work, and I see that in you as well.
And I love that we will be coming together, all these different pillars coming together, talking to each other, sharing what we're up to, and maybe working together after that. That is just so exciting.
Absolutely, because that's, I think, really what's different about it. It's rather than a conference where you're going and you're listening to the experts, you are one of the experts in a room full of experts, and to be able to I see that image of all those high branches all mixing together and being able to share. It's just a beautiful image. Well, tell us a little bit more about the EQ quiz. I'll put the link in below, but it's very simple. It is eqquiz.com.
Yes, with a double Q in the middle. So it's easy to take. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. Be as honest as you can be. The more honest you are, the more information we'll both get about what it means. And then you'll automatically get a series of things that will help you understand what it means. There is an interpretation guide. There's a Whammies webinar training, which describes the challenges in each of the areas. And I talk to some extent about the impact some of these challenges have on each other and have on you. And there's some guidance about how to start shifting things. Of course, by nature of the format, it's somewhat generic. When I work with you individually, of course, we go more specifically into your background. I had a call this morning with a client who, when she was very young, her first memories were of her parents fighting. And that went on for years and years. And then it took 3 years for them to get divorced. And during that time, they continued to fight. And so one of her scores indicated that she has a lot of fear and mistrust in every area of life. Well, it made sense. She grew up with fear and mistrust. And so her green score for type 9, the peacemaker, was very low. She doesn't believe peace is possible. Not inner peace, not relational peace, not world peace. Nowhere is peace possible. Well, it makes sense because she needed to keep herself safe. If she believed in peace, she would have been destroyed. It would have been horrible. But now is a different time, and there are people in her life she can trust, and it is possible for her to learn to trust herself. So anyway, in her scores, we start to see, when I talk to her specifically, we're able to shift that early imprint about why fear was imprinted. And we don't even need to know the why. We just need to know it's there. And so we just start to shift the imprint. We create a new imprint so she can actually have trust in herself, in others, and in life. And then, of course, peace can be possible. So in your interpretation guide, it's somewhat generic. When we talk one-on-one and there is an invitation for that, then we can go more specifically into what created these challenges and to shift them. And then in our work together, you start anchoring this new way of being. So it's easier for you to step into what is next for you.
What you just said is so important. A new way of being. It is so powerful. In fact, this event feels like the result of work that came back in Colorado, where you had been living for many years at Sunrise Ranch. We had the co-creators convergence back in 2014, I think. And the outcome of that was the way that we can make the biggest change in the world is by finding a new way of being, who we are, new way of being in business, and stepping into that new way of being sometimes is the challenge. So having the tools to be able to recognize where you are and what some of the challenges are, and to be able to see those and to be able to again, embody them. That's such an important piece of it, that it's great to have the concept of playing a bigger game, but if you're still running into all of the same resistance, it can be like being on a treadmill.
Yeah, this might be a nice question to leave our listeners with. What is your next new way of being?
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Excellent. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and we would love to hear from you. What is your new way of being? The whole idea of Vision 2020, this is a very, very special time, I believe, in human history, certainly in our own lives. And what is coming up for so many people is this, my intention, my whole intention for Vision 2020 is joyous expansion for all. So that is what my new way of being is joyous expansion.
Beautiful. Joyous expansion for all. I love that, Mark.
Thank you. And I'll again post in the comments below the link to the EQ quiz, as well as links to Vision 2020 Soulful Leadership Mastermind Retreat. And we would love to see you there.
See you there.
Bye for now.